Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Session will start immediately. Our next session, it's about current and future work on the ICT Household Indicator. And I would like to give the floor to the moderator, to Alison Gilwald, the Executive Director of Research ICT Africa, to moderate the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you for everybody getting back a little earlier. This section also looks at the current and future work of the ICT Household Indicators. While the previous session was looking more at the administrative data and the supply side data, this section begins to look at the demand side data through the ICT access and use surveys of households and individuals, and the work that's already been done in a number of countries on collecting data through national household surveys. I think what has become clear over the last few years and the work that has been done in this area already is that it's really through this demand-side work, demand-side survey understanding that we are able to identify the actual points of intervention. The supply-side data can let us identify where some of the problems are, but from a policy point of view, how we can fix those problems really requires an understanding of the ICT access and use, what is causing those problems. So I think this demand-side work is extremely exciting. We've got people on this panel who've been doing very, very exciting work in that area. And hopefully we'll be able to share these experiences in order to better identify the problems that we face. As we indicated, particularly in the global south, a lot of the access to voice and also broadband services has been made possible through mobile networks, through mobile services. So the focus of this session will also examine or target or look at the issue of household and individual use in relation to mobile cellular services. So basically, we'll start with a paper that will look at the outcome of the EGH, the expert group, group on ICT household indicators, the work that was carried out to 2014. Including the discussion on proposed indicators in the area of internet security, child and youth online prosecution, barriers to internet use, and mobile phone ownership. And then, as I said, the session will focus particularly on mobile cellular services. I think it's become clear from the first round of research that once one has issues of connectivity and access dealt with, the real challenges, the real constraints on broadband use and equality and evenness of broadband use and take-up are really determined by a lot of the, in our sort of view, softer factors, but really far more fundamental factors that require policy interventions across a much broader range of areas than just ICT. So I think our initial work is all showing that issues of income, which are attached to issues of education, are actually the key constraints as you move into more complex forms of communication requiring higher skills levels. But let's hear more on that. Our first speaker has been doing very exciting work in this area. Alessandro, you can find your, full bio, which I've misplaced here. Barbosa is head of the Center of Studies for Information and Communication Technologies in Brazil, which was recently recognized as a UNESCO Category 2 center, which is very exciting and a great reflection of the work you've been doing. The center is for the development of the Information Society, and it's based in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Mr. Barbosa is in charge of nationwide ICT survey projects in Brazil, aimed at the production of ICT-related statistics and indicators. He has more qualifications than he needs for the job, so I'm not going to go through them all. They're all in the bio. Please take us through your presentation.
Thank you, Alison. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning to share the outcomes of the EGH group expert group. We had a very interesting panel in the last session related to demand-side indicators, and now we are going to look at, previous session on supply-side indicators, and now we are going to look at some indicators from the demand side, which is, as Alison has mentioned, very important for policymakers. Well, I will start with a very brief overview to remember you that the expert group on ICT Household Indicator was launched in May 2012, and since then we have been very active in the discussion. The main objective of this expert group is to conduct a continuous revision on the partnership core list of indicators on ICT access in households and use by individuals, of course, in collaboration with our state members or member states. And we have adopted a mixed mode work methodology with an online discussion on the EG8 forum and also face-to-face meetings. Today is our third report on the WTIS. The first one was in 2012 in Bangkok. Then we had another one last year in WTIS in Mexico, where we had also the launch of the new version of the ITU Household Manual, which is much more comprehensive and a lot of information. And today is our third report in this symposium. And we had two face-to-face meetings. The first one was last year in June in São Paulo, Brazil. And our second meeting, which was a joint meeting with the ICT, was held in Geneva in September this year. We started with about 45 members, countries participate in the forum, and 97 registered members in 2012, and today we have 99 countries, almost 100 countries, and more than 300 participants in the forum. So for those in the room that are still not registered in the EG8 online forum, I would invite you to join us. The meeting that we had in Geneva had the objective to examine the continuous received from the contributions received from the members of the EG8 between July 2013 and September 2014. In this meeting in September, we had 85 participants representing National Statistics Office, NSOs, ministries, regulators, and international organizations, and regional organizations, and as well private sector. In this, now I'm going to show you the main outcomes of this second meeting. We have 8 points to be covered today, very briefly. We had made some progress in reaching agreement on some indicators, and other indicators are still open for discussion because we were not able to achieve an agreement due to the complexity of the subject, like security, child online protection. So the first one was internet by type of portable device and network used to access the internet. Internet security was the second one. Then child and youth online protection, mobile phone ownership, mobile phone activities, barriers to internet use by individuals, ICT employment, and we also discussed the future work of the EGH. Let's start by the first indicator that we have reached an agreement, which was the internet by type of portable device and network used. The participants and member states agreed on the definition and also the response categories for this particular indicator, and ITU will include this indicator in the ITU ICT Household Questionnaire. And to give you an idea of the type of device that we have made an agreement, we had 4 types: mobile phone, tablet, portable computer, laptops, notebooks, and netbooks, etc., and other portable devices, such as game consoles, watches, e-book readers, etc. And for each of those response categories, we have, if you have yes for that particular portable device to access the internet, we also have the type of network. So If yes, you have via mobile cellular network like 3G and 4G, or via other wireless networks such as Wi-Fi. So those were the types of portable device and type of network used to access the internet. Internet security. This is a very complex issue. Members, they agree that this is very relevant for policy making, but it is very difficult to collect. So those countries willing to collect this data, they are welcome to collect and to use the proposed questions proposed by ITU or other type of questions such as those in the Eurostat survey model questions. And ITU will not include these particular indicators in the ITU ICT Household Questionnaire. And of course that many countries have certs installed in their country. They can use data and they may have different source of data for policy making purpose in the local context. Another indicator that countries agree that it is very relevant for policy, but it will not be included in the questionnaire is child online protection, child and youth online protection. Although it is relevant, it is very complex to be measured, and some countries are already collecting some data on this field. And we had a very interesting presentation from Iran. Iran made a real data collection using ITU proposed questions, and they made a very interesting presentation, and they also reported issues related to the difficulties on measuring this. Brazil is another example that we also made a presentation in the online in this face-to-face meeting. We are collecting data based on the Eurostat Kids Online survey model for the third consecutive year, but it's very difficult. We agree that it should not be included in the ITU questionnaire. Next progress that we made was related to the indicator on mobile phone ownership. We recognized that the indicator on the proportion of individuals who own a mobile phone is relevant for policy making and for analysis related to gender, to understand in different contexts, like in South America context, African context, the difference between the usage and ownership by men and women. And it is important to mention that these indicators is different from mobile phone users and mobile phone subscribers. In the next slide, it will be more clear. And this indicator was agreed with member states, and it will be included in the ITU household questionnaire. And to give you a more precise definition on the ownership, the definition that was agreed is ownership refers to an individual who owns a mobile cellular phone if she or he has a mobile cellular phone device with at least one active SIM card for personal use. If you have the SIM card but don't have the device, it does not count. So we also agreed that mobile cellular phones supplied by employers, for instance, can be used for personal reasons, is counted as ownership. Also, individuals who have only active SIM cards and not a mobile device, they are not counted and they are excluded in these indicators. Individuals who has a mobile phone for personal use that is not registered under he or she, his or her name is included, is counted. So if you have a teenager in your family that has a mobile phone under a subscription of his father or mother, it will be counted. Mobile phone activities. This is another important indicator, but although several countries is measuring already mobile phone activities, this will not be included in the ITU questionnaire. And the discussion of this particular indicator will be closed in the forum, and countries can collect data for their own internal and policy purposes. The next indicator is barriers to internet use by individuals. The indicator proportion of individuals not using the internet by type of barriers is very important for many, many countries where we still have cost barriers and also availability barriers. So for policy making purpose, it is very relevant. And we have to ensure that response categories of the indicators, barriers for not using the internet, are complementary for the existing H814 indicators. And the discussion in the forum, continue the discussion in the forum, online forum, elaborating the response categories coming from this meeting. Review in the future the response categories of H814, which is complementary to this one, to ensure that it refers only to household barriers. Another topic that was discussed, we had a very interesting presentation from ILO that has highlighted the increased demand from the industry and policymakers for data about ICT and employment. So this is new. We know that we don't have comparable data at the international level, and this was the start of this discussion. And since this is a new topic, it will be open in the online forum so that countries can encourage this discussion and bring their contribution so that we can reach an agreement in the future about ICT and employment. Well, another topic, very, very important, is related to data quality. And this afternoon, we have a very interesting session on this particular issue. And I would like to remind you that the ongoing work to access data quality of ITU statistics and to develop a data quality assurance framework was welcomed by all participants. ITU is on the process of developing this data quality assurance framework, and we have already a document that is posted in the forum. It was posted, I guess, a week ago or 4 days ago. It's available for you to have the draft of this document. And not only this drafted document is on the forum, but also we have already created a discussion item on data quality on the forum. You can already start making your contributions. We know that many countries are working on data quality issues. And finally, I would like to point out the future work of the H8. And here I have a list of suggested topics that was brought by participants. The first one, as I mentioned, was ICT and employment. This is a very important issue, not only for developing economies, but also for developed economies, job creation and job destruction. So this is very important, and this is a new item for discussion. Also, the indicator proportion of individuals not using the internet by type of barriers is must be reviewed in the light of the existing H814. Also, it was suggested that countries should share experience related to internet security and also COP, child online protection. Those are not being collected by ITU, but it is opening the forum for discussion. Another issue was data quality and also methodological issues related to data collection tools, processes, standards, etc. And finally, still on this in this methodological issue, data verification, data processing, data dissemination, like for instance, data visualization tools. How we are going to present the data for policymakers so that they can easily handle this massive database of indicators, and also open data. Other source of data, we had many presentations on big data yesterday and today. National coordination was another topic that was suggested as a future work for H8. barriers to mobile phone ownership, and other areas of discussion, such as sustainable development goals, post-2015, digital inclusion, e-waste, e-government, e-health, ICT and education. So those were the topics that were suggested for the continuation of the EG8 online forum. And finally, I would like to reinforce the invitation for those countries that are not represented in the EG8 forum to do so. Here you have the web address, so you are welcome to join. This is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Alexandra. I think you've highlighted the importance of us refining our understanding of particularly mobile ownership and usage, and certainly thrown out a challenge in terms of other areas that have been raised but that we haven't clarified, that are already clearly factors that determine various groups' participation with ICTs. I think particularly education is going to be a challenge for us there. And of course linked to these income and employment factors as well. Thank you very much indeed for that. The next presentation is a joint presentation by Esperanza Magpante, who's Senior Statistician responsible for ICT data and statistics in the Statistics Division at the ITU, the BDT. She has been working in this area at ITU for a long time, and prior to that worked in the ILO. Again, I think you can look at her bio if you want to track what she's been working on, but she's been particularly active and heads, I believe, the expert group on ICT Household Indicators, and was responsible for developing, I think, the ICTI and the database. She'll be presenting with Jos Gillet, who's Senior Manager at GSMA Intelligence, and this is a nice collaboration in trying to refine our understanding of mobile access and use, considering all the fabulous data that GSMA sits on through its operators. Nice to have access to that. Jos is Senior Manager, as I said, for GSMA Intelligence. He has worked in the industry with consulting firms prior to that, and has a lot of experience in this area, which he will bring to us today, share with us in the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. So this morning, we will present to you the work that we are planning to embark on related to improving mobile phone metrics. So we have heard earlier that we have already looked at the issue of unique mobile phone subscriptions when the EGH chair presented the outcomes of the work that has been done in September. And we would like to explore other areas where we can work on together with GSMA Intelligence in terms of improving the current indicator on mobile phone that we are collecting at the ITU. So as you can see from this chart, this is the one that you have in the Measuring the Information Society report, and which is also available in our website. The upper line, which is the blue one, shows you that there's almost 96% of mobile telephone subscriptions per 100 inhabitants. But this is not necessarily telling us the complete picture and the real picture, because what it tells us here is that almost all the population has a mobile phone subscriptions, but this is not correct. And that is why we want to check on other indicators that could better measure and show us the real uptake of mobile phone service. We can see also from this chart that the developing world has increased its share in terms of mobile cellular subscriptions from 2000 to 2014. And majority of the mobile phone subscriptions are now in the developing world. But this is not necessarily, again, telling us the real picture on whether the developing countries are actually using, or whether there is a real this much uptake of mobile cellular subscriptions. So the current indicator that we measure and that we collect from our respondents, from regulators and ministries, is called the mobile cellular subscriptions. And we used to call it mobile cellular subscriber. I think it was until early 2000 when we started thinking of whether we can still use this indicator as a good indicator of showing mobile phone uptake. And later on, we changed the name of indicator to mobile phone subscriptions. The main reason is that the numbers that we collect from countries are not anymore subscribers, but really the number of SIM cards or subscriptions, which can refer to one person having multiple SIM cards or multiple subscriptions. So this is the current indicator that we have. But this, as I mentioned, does not necessarily measure the number of people or how many people have a mobile phone or how many people are using mobile cellular services. So if you look at the indicator, this is one indicator that was presented to us in the EGH meeting in September. This is called unique subscribers. This is an indicator which will show you that a person can equate to either one subscription or a subscriber can have one subscription, or it can have more than one subscription. So it looks at the number of person who has a subscription. So a person has a subscription or multiple subscription. We also have an indicator which is called users, and this is different from mobile cellular subscriptions because a user may or may not have a subscription or may have multiple subscriptions. And this indicator is very important because this is really how we can see whether a person is really using a mobile phone. And this is an indicator that we currently collect from the household survey that we collect from national statistical offices. So again, this is not the same as mobile cellular subscriptions. There's a third indicator, which is mobile phone ownership. This is an indicator we discussed in September in the EGH meeting that we conducted. And we heard earlier the definition of a mobile phone owner, which is a person which can either own one or more than one mobile phone or mobile subscription. So this, again, is a different indicator from a mobile phone subscription indicator that we currently collect. So all of these three indicators we are not yet collecting, and this is some of the areas that we would like to explore with GSMA Intelligence, whether we can collaborate to improve the current data collection and the current data availability that we have at the ITU. So for most of you, you know what we do in terms of ICT statistics. So we collect data both coming from the regulators and the ministries on the administrative data, the supply side data, and we also collect data from the national statistics offices on the access to and use of ICTs by households and individuals. In particular, the mobile cellular subscription indicator and the mobile broadband indicator that we mentioned earlier are collected from the regulators and the ministries. There's a few countries, a few developing countries that conduct the household surveys, and this is still a challenge for most of the countries because although they collect the household indicators, the household on availability of computer and internet, the indicator on the percentage of individuals using the internet is still a challenge for most countries, as there is no survey that collects this type of information. So this is an area that the ITU is also working with countries and with the National Statistics Office. We conduct a number of trainings and workshops to help countries understand how to conduct a household survey, but still there's an issue of resources and other challenges that countries face in conducting the household survey. We also heard about the issue of big data yesterday, that we are starting to look at, especially on the mobile cellular operators that could be useful in terms of finding new alternative data sources, in terms of looking at how many people actually use or what are the activities that are conducted while using a mobile phone. So these are the three big areas that we will work on in terms of ICT statistics. The first two, of course, is our current work. And we hope that in the near future, we can also explore new data sources. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to pass on the floor to our colleague from GSMA Intelligence to give you an overview of the work that they do related to the same topic that I mentioned earlier.
Thank you, thank you, Esperanza. So essentially, what you see on that slide, that there are similarities between the work that the ITU is conducting and the work that GSMA Intelligence is conducting. So GSMA Intelligence is a massive database. We have around 26 million data points in one location online. So kind of starting to tackle the big data issue here. And this data is mainly looking at operator metrics. So we harvest all the data that is reported by operators every month, every quarter, every year. And we look at every single operator in the world, every single technology, every single metric that they report. And that's from the supply side. And then we also do collect data from the demand side, and we run consumer surveys as well. And we bring the two together to come up with unique research that I'm going to cover in a minute. But essentially, those two points are similar to the work that the ITU is conducting, and that's quite an exciting area to understand how we can collaborate with the ITU to improve the data that we have. Regarding big data, we are also looking into this area and only starting now to try and assess what can be done and what kind of opportunities are out there. So just showing here the methodology that we use. Starting from the bottom of the pyramid, we collect, as I mentioned, data from operator reports. We also harvest data from all the reports that regulators publish. So we cover like around 1,000 plus operators, more than 3,500 networks. And the data at an operator level is aggregated at a country level, a regional level. And then on top of that, we then apply the figures that we collect from consumer surveys. Those surveys have been done last in January this year, and looking at 44 countries with an equal split between developed and developing economies. And these surveys helped us to derive the number of mobile unique subscribers, so exactly what Esperanza was describing earlier, trying to understand the difference between a subscription and a subscriber. So one key question that we ask in the survey is how many SIM cards do you actively use? And that SIM ratio is essential to understand the best way to derive the unique subscriber metric. And then the numbers are also aggregated, and then we get unique subscriber numbers at a country, regional level, global level, and we started breaking that out by technology as well. So we want to understand, out of the subscriber base, how many of them are using mobile internet services, and how many of those mobile internet subscribers are doing so via mobile broadband or via 2G. And the team of analysts that we have also forecast all of that to 2020. So we run a lot of research and analysis on the predictions and market trends over the coming years. So looking at what we do with this data, essentially what you can see from this graph is that when you look at the penetration rate based on subscribers, not subscriptions, what you see that when a typical country in the developed world reaches this kind of 80% level, then that's when penetration starts to slow down. And there is quite a striking difference between the penetration in the developed region and in the developing region. And what we do with this data is essentially try to understand what it would take, for countries in the developing region essentially to increase the penetration rate. So there's a lot of work going on with around digital inclusion, understanding the barriers to adoption, who are the subscribers, who are effectively the unconnected population, right? So understanding all the questions on coverage and barriers to adoption and so on. So we published recently a report on digital inclusion, which used a lot of the data that we published and trying to answer those questions in details. Here is an example of the data that we hold for China. And starting from the left to the right, we start with the population number, which comes from the UN. And then we start debating the question around what share of the population is covered by mobile networks. So we try to talk about access to network here. Then we try to understand the addressable population, so trying to make the audience realize that not everyone in a given country can subscribe to mobile services. There will always be a share of the population that will never subscribe. So you can derive that by looking at age groups, socioeconomic factors. There are multiple ways to do it, but it's important to realize it. So the penetration rate that we are working with should not top 100%. Because there will always be a share of the population that will not subscribe to mobile services. Then based on the survey, we understand that in China, for instance, the average consumer holds 1.79 SIM cards each, which helps us to derive the unique subscriber number based on the subscription number that is reported by operators and regulators. And we try to assess that between urban and rural areas as well. So this picture is just to show you the debate that is triggered when you start talking about the best way to measure real penetration in a country, and then all the good work that can come out of it when you want to understand what is at stake behind it, especially when you start looking into the unconnected population and barriers to adoption. Then looking at the cooperation and the collaborative work we are looking to conduct with the ITU, the first thing that we'd like to mention is the definition and methodology. That's a very important point to us, and as I mentioned, we hold a lot of data, and what is essential is accuracy of the data and data integrity. So we identified a number of areas where we can improve in aligning the definitions and the methodology. One of them is around the activity period that is defined in the subscription number, and the other one is around the activity criteria within the mobile broadband subscription numbers. So those two are areas where we will try and align as much as we can and try to improve the quality of the data. Then going into the measure to understand mobile phone uptake and this difference between subscription and subscribers, we'll be looking at producing new indicators on mobile phone uptakes, and for that, Esperanza explained the three key indicators that we think are very important to understand: the unique subscriber number, the mobile phone owner, and the user number. So those are indicators that we will start discussing and debating what the best methodology would be. And to that, I'll pass it back on to Esperanza.
Thank you. So the next area of proposed cooperation that we have is on improving the data related to the estimates based on the current data available at the ITU and GSMA intelligence. So what we would like to do here is that we will compare in terms of our estimates in the absence of official data and the data that is currently available at GSMA to see whether we can come up with a better data for a country where we are struggling to find a real official data. The next area of cooperation that we will look at is on improving data sources. And this is very important because, as mentioned earlier, GSMA Intelligence is planning to conduct surveys. So these are consumer surveys, and it was previously done by private company. And here what we want to explore is working with national statistics offices in making sure that the surveys are representative. So we will be talking with our statistical contacts in the national statistical offices in terms of finding a way how we can work with them in defining the sample to make sure that the sample that will be used in the future surveys of GSMA Intelligence is representative of what the country is currently projecting. There's also an agreement to look at using the internationally agreed standards and indicators that the ITU produce, particularly on the household ICT indicators. And this is one important area because this will ensure that the data we produce in both agencies are in conformity with international standards and are comparable for a given country. We would also explore synergies in terms of big data. As mentioned, there's work going on in GSMA related to big data coming from mobile phone operators, and we will look at in terms of how we can collaborate in doing this work. We are also hoping to prepare a joint publication or maybe a joint chapter in terms of disseminating the results that will come out of this cooperation. So it can be maybe touching on the new indicators or maybe the results that will be coming up from the household surveys that will be conducted in the future by GSMA. And of course, we will be happy to receive the data from GSMA in terms of the data that will be collected using the household surveys that they are planning to do in the future. And we will compare the results with data that are available at the country, or we will probably explore how we can use this data to supplement the current data that we have on ICT household statistics. And of course, what I would like to mention here is that we will still rely on official data sources, and we will explore using this alternative data or the data that will be coming out of this cooperation in the absence of official data. And this is, of course, to ensure that there is a wide availability of ICT household statistics and that we don't rely on estimates that are based on other indicators that are not necessarily collected from household surveys. I think that's it. I just want to mention that we have few copies of the publication of the ITU Household Manual and the ITU Handbook on Administrative Indicators. We put them outside, so if you don't have a copy of those publications, you can pick that up after this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esperanza and Josh. Thank you. I think that's really highlighted the challenges we face in getting complete sets of data and the importance of complementary data in finding a fuller picture and understanding where we need to address problems. I do think it also highlights the incredible need for full demand-side studies in order to really understand what's happening on the ground. And I think, I think a lot of the evidence that is available where there are demand-side studies have been shown to reflect some of the problems with just using descriptive statistics. And without nationally representative demand-side surveys, you're simply unable to go into the modeling that can take you beyond those descriptive statistics. I think it's just an interesting case in that regard is the work that we've done on gender, for example, that in purely statistical terms demonstrates, as one anticipates, in many countries, particularly with regard to the internet, the reduced, the inequitable use between men and women in favor of men of the internet. Whereas when you begin to model that with nationally representative data, you actually find that the determinants of that imbalance is not gender per se, but actually income and education, and that women are concentrated in those lower groups. So from a policy point of view, that's what you actually need to address, not so much the sort of direct ICT gender sort of initiatives that many of these attempts have done to bring equality. So it's a really big challenge for us. Let's move on in the interest of time. We've got Alvina Kwan, who's Senior Statistician at the Census and Statistics Department in Hong Kong, who's going to speak to us on this topic. She is actually responsible for the development of statistics on innovation, ICT, culture and creative industries, so a whole lot of other interesting stuff as well. Again, just look at her qualifications and her experience, which are very interesting in the bio. And if you could start your presentation so we could move on to the questions.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me today to share about the experience of Hong Kong, China in conducting household survey, in collecting the demand side data on ICT use. Today, I will focus on the barriers to ICT use. I will first start with a brief overview of the Hong Kong situation on the ICT use and penetration, and then I will have a session on why households do not have PC, and then finally, I will address the barriers to household internet access. First, I would like to talk about our data source. We conduct a household survey in every 2 years in details to collect data on ICT barrier. And we, in between, we have a brief update on every year for the key indicator. For our survey, we successfully interviewed over 10,000 randomly selected households, and we target the respondent. We target the household head or a knowledgeable person in the household about their ICT use, and we use face-to-face interviews through household visits to collect our data, and we can achieve a response rate of over 75%, which is I think is really encouraging. In this chart, you will see the uptake of household in using PC and internet in the past decade in Hong Kong, China. You will see at the start of the decade, less than half of our households are using PC or internet. Apart from the average, by the end of 2012, we have around 80% of households are using PC, and around 78% of households are using internet. I would say that the sharp growth in the past decade of using PC and internet in Hong Kong, China are not is a sharp increase indeed. Apart from the uptick of the PC penetration and internet penetration by the average household, the government have actively promoting the ITC use by introduce a digital inclusion program, especially target for the disability, elderly, student of limited means, and the ethnic minorities. Government will subsidize the funding for ICT access, and there are a lot of engagement programs to promote their interest in using the ICT device. I have been asked about the challenge in conducting household survey in Hong Kong. I must say that we are relying more and more on technology in our data collection. And we are studying using online questionnaire, various computer devices in our data collection. I must say that our challenge is to capture those who left behind by the technology. That means the remaining 10 to 20% hardcore non-PC and non-internet user. That will be our challenge. I noticed that this is one of the topics in the EGH. I'm really looking forward to a fruitful discussion on this topic so that we can all together address this challenge. Then I will turn to my presentation on those households do not have PC. First of all, people always ask us, what do you mean by PC when we conducting our survey? And we, luckily, we have the EGH discussion. We follow closely the recommendation from the expert group so that we can have a universal standard of PC around the world within the ITC family. And the PC definition of PC have been shown here. You will see that I just follow the ITU's definition. And in 2012, there's around 80% of households say that they have PC at home. And among those, the 20% who do not have PC at home, and about 64% say that they will definitely not to have PC at home in the near future. And by looking at the reason for them not having PC at home, and the first reason that comes to us is they do not know how to use a computer, and then they have no specific application, and these are more linked to the elderly, disability, student with the ethnic minority who have less understanding on the use of ICT. And then in the middle, cost is another concern. About 7.1% households say that owning a PC is too expensive for them. And by looking at the household income, I must say that the accessibility to ICT really related to the cost. About less than half of the household who earn less than 1,000 Hong Kong dollars, that means around 1,200 US dollar, they say that they do not own a PC at home. So I must say that the ICT assets to a certain extent linked to the problem of poverty. And then let me turn to the next part, the barrier to households' internet assets. Among those who have PC at home, we asked those households whether you have access to the internet, and almost all of the households who have PC at home had connected to the internet. Only around 2.6% say that they do not have access to internet. And among those who do not have access to internet, a quarter of them say that they will not connect to the internet in the near future. For the reason for them not having a PC at home which connected to the internet, I would like to echo yesterday's speaker's view. First of all, the understanding of the benefit of access to ICT is really important, because many of the households say that they think that they do not need to use the internet service. And then they are, some of them say that they have lack of interest in using internet. I think this related to their understanding of the benefit of using ICT. And secondly, it related to skills. Some of the households say that they just lack of the skill in using computer and the internet application. And finally, and at the end, is about the cost of using ICT. Many of them saying that the monthly charge for internet are too expensive for them. And by looking at the household income distribution, we confirm our finding that to access to the internet, we need funding. For those households who earn less than $1,200 US, the rate of connecting to internet is just about 35%. That comes to the end of my presentation. There is more information about our survey in our Census and Statistics Department website. And in fact, we just finished our survey in 2014 about this barrier to ICT use, and we will publish our results soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alvina. I think many of us in the Global South would love your problems. You're trying to collect the last 20%, we're trying to connect the last 80%. But very interesting, and obviously really luxury of information and data there. Let's move right on, because we are running out of time, to Carmelo Munoz. He is director of the National Observatory for Telecommunications and Information Society in Spain. He's an advisor to the ministry. Again, his activities and experience are captured in his bio, so please have a good look at that. And he will speak about some of the work that they've been doing in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. I'll do my presentation in Spanish. Buenos días, señores y señores. Agradezco a la UIT la invitación a la 12ª edición de este WTIS y la oportunidad de mostrar algunas pinceladas del trabajo que el Observatorio Nacional de las Telecomunicaciones y para la Sociedad de la Información desarrolla en relación con los puntos que se me ha pedido tratar.
No. Can we have some indication if we're going to get any Spanish to English translation? All right, we are...
თუ შეიძლება თარგმნებს რომ შეგვატყობინოთ არის თუ არა თარგმანი. ესპანურიდან თუ შეიძლება რომ შეგვატყობინოთ არის თუ არა. Do you have anything?
Should we carry on? No?
Okay, you could start, please. Maybe to check that.
So, I'll start again. Buenos días, señores y señores. Agradezco a la UIT la invitación a la 12ª edición de este WTIS y la oportunidad de mostrar algunas pinceladas del trabajo que nuestro Observatorio Nacional de las Telecomunicaciones y para la Sociedad de la Información desarrolla en relación con los puntos que se me ha pedido tratar.
Sorry, do we have translation or still not?
No.
No.
So in English.
تو شعر بترجمه نمی‌تونم شگوت قبینا تاریخ تو برم
It doesn't matter.
چون انت نراريس ما ما يخلي اسمي
Okay.
Yeah. No problem. Okay. So in
All right,
English.
and we have English PowerPoint as well.
Okay.
no?
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank to the ITU for the invitation to the 12th edition of this WTIS and the chance to show some points of the work that the National Observatory of the Telecommunications and Information Society develops in relation to the points that I've been asked for deal with. The first of the points I'm going to deal with is related to indicators of security in households. Last year, the observatory, as ICT Observatory, was given competencies of observatory related to online security. As the result of this, we've adopted Okay. Bueno, el primero de los puntos de los que hoy voy a tratar es el que hace referencia a los indicadores de seguridad en el hogar. El año pasado, el Observatorio Nacional de las Telecomunicaciones y Sociedad de la Información, como observatorio TIC nacional que es, recibió las competencias de observatorio en materia de seguridad online. Fruto de ello, hemos adoptado el trabajo que anteriormente realizaba el Instituto Nacional de Tecnologías de la Comunicación, el INTECO. El trabajo que heredamos consiste en un estudio a una muestra tipo panel compuesta por 3.000 hogares, en el que se hace un seguimiento a la actividad de malware de los diferentes equipos fijos y móviles de cada hogar, a la vez que se realiza una encuesta online a los individuos pertenecientes a cada hogar. Por último, en aquellas variables que el software instalado en los dispositivos de los hogares monitorea, se hace una comparación entre lo que los hogares declaran y lo que el software detecta. A continuación se muestran datos a hogares en respuesta a las siguientes preguntas que aparecen en pantalla sobre el uso de protección automática contra amenazas. Cuando hablamos de protección automática nos referimos a actualizaciones de antivirus, el uso de antivirus, las actualizaciones de los sistemas operativos, el uso de bloqueo de pop-up, uso de software anti-spam y software anti-spyware. De la contestación a estas preguntas se extraen los siguientes datos, los que vemos en pantalla. Se puede ver algunos casos, como en el uso de Internet con permisos reducidos, que la realidad supera a lo declarado, lo que lleva a pensar que en este tipo de casos el usuario no es consciente ni siquiera de que está sujeto a un determinado tipo de medida de seguridad. De la siguiente tabla podemos concluir, en virtud de que las razones esgrimidas para no usar este tipo de protección es que no se conocen o que no se necesitan, que existe un desconocimiento importante acerca del uso y de la importancia de protegerse contra amenazas online. Pasando el uso de protección no automática, como el uso de la identificación personal electrónica o el uso de la firma electrónica, la partición del disco duro, copias de seguridad o la eliminación de cookies y archivos temporales. Se ha realizado parecido tipo de preguntas. Evidentemente, cuanto más específica es la medida de protección, menor es su adopción, en virtud de lo que se puede ver en el gráfico que se muestra en pantalla. Vemos que lo que menos adopción tiene es la codificación de datos y de documentos, pues es algo mucho más específico que cambiar una contraseña. De manera similar al caso de la protección automatizable, la no automatizable, su no adopción tiene mucho que ver también con que los usuarios piensan que no es necesario, lo que lleva otra vez a la misma conclusión, el desconocimiento de la importancia en el uso de medidas de protección. Pasando a indicadores, indicadores de uso de movilidad, que es el segundo punto que quería tratar, de los datos extraídos de la encuesta TIC Hogares que realiza anualmente el Instituto Nacional de Estadística, el INE, resulta que unos 24 millones, casi 25, de españoles entre 16 y 74 años declaran haber usado Internet durante los últimos 3 meses. De ellos, 17 millones, aproximadamente un 70%, declaran haber usado un dispositivo móvil fuera del hogar o del lugar de trabajo para acceder a la red. De las gráficas situadas en la parte inferior de la pantalla, se deduce que el móvil es el dispositivo favorito para navegar por la red, que los que usan el móvil lo hacen más a través de banda ancha móvil y que los que usan ordenadores portátiles y tablets acceden a Internet preferentemente a través de Wi-Fi. Obviamente, estos eran los resultados que se tendría que haber obtenido de manera lógica, ya que el teléfono inteligente supera en grado de movilidad a tablets y laptops. De las gráficas que vamos a ver de manera sucesiva, se infiere que Por sexos existe un equilibrio aproximado entre hombres y mujeres como usuarios de movilidad y que debemos estar atentos a la brecha digital que se está generando. Vemos en la siguiente gráfica. Debemos estar atentos a la brecha digital que se está generando en las personas mayores. Por nivel de estudios existe cierto equilibrio entre los que solamente han finalizado algunos de los ciclos de educación primaria y aquellos que son poseedores de un título universitario. De esta gráfica que podemos ver, se concluye que la clase media es básicamente la depositaria de la mayor proporción de usuarios de Internet móvil, aunque si subdividimos por cada uno de las categorías vemos que domina la clase alta. Por situación laboral, aquellos que trabajan por cuenta ajena son los que dominan en el uso de la movilidad. Y la mayor proporción de usuarios que utiliza Internet en movilidad son aquellos habitantes de las grandes urbes, de las grandes ciudades o de municipios muy pequeños. En España existe también un gran número de poblaciones con un número de habitantes reducido. En cuanto a las barreras de uso a Internet, por parte de los ciudadanos, en el primer cuadro se observa que el 74% de los hogares con al menos un individuo de entre 16 y 74 años dispone de acceso a Internet. El nada despreciable 26% restante declara mayoritariamente que las razones por las cuales no disponen de acceso a Internet son que no necesitan Internet, 60,6%, o que consideran no tener conocimientos necesarios para el uso de Internet, lo que representa el 38,6% de los hogares que no tienen conexión a Internet. Esto constituye una llamada de atención a nuestro gobierno, dado que nos muestra la necesidad de poner en marcha programas de adquisición de conocimientos básicos del manejo de las herramientas de la red. Si queremos alcanzar unos porcentajes de usuarios cercanos a potencias europeas como Reino Unido, Francia o Alemania. Para ir terminando, quisiera tratar el punto de uso de Internet por parte de niños y adolescentes, el cual he dejado para el final de la intervención de manera consciente. Y lo he querido dejar para el final, dado que tiene que ver con una medida puesta en marcha recientemente por el Ministerio de Industria, Energía y Turismo de mi país, por la cual se ha constituido un grupo de trabajo de menores e Internet, en el cual coordino uno de los subgrupos, estudios, métricas y vigilancia tecnológica. El régimen en el que se desarrolla esta medida es el de colaboración público-privada, en la que se encuentran ministerios como el de Interior, Sanidad y Asuntos Sociales, Justicia y Educación y Cultura, y una serie de colectivos de la sociedad civil que trabajan por la protección de los derechos del menor. Dentro de las acciones a llevar a cabo por el subgrupo que coordino, se encuentra la realización de un estudio de diagnóstico del uso de la movilidad por parte de los menores. Se trataría de un estudio cualitativo y cuantitativo que abordaría de manera específica el uso de la movilidad.
And we have the very often occasions of mobile grooming and sexting and so on. And in the end, I would like to sum up my speech. As regards the safety in the internet, we have a lot of work cut out for us. Meaning that the citizens must quite well comprehend how important it is to adhere to these measures of safety. Very importantly, when we are going to switch over to the digital systems. And as regards the mobile telephone usage, I consider that it is worthwhile to pay attention to the category of the aged individuals, not to make them sort of secluded, separate from modern technologies. And as in terms of the analysis of barriers of internet using, single out that in terms of the fact that the price is high for these technologies, we don't have also opportunity of installing, and in terms of access, we don't have problems. We have the barrier in terms of cultural and educational issue. That's why I would like to finish up my speech. Thank you very much for your attention.
Lack of awareness around it, which I'm sure would be shared by many of our countries, be equally high. And of course, the very interesting and innovative work you're doing around child protection, and I'm sure that will be developed over the next few years within the group. I think because we are so short of time, we're going to go straight to some questions. We actually have kept within our time, but the time was late in starting. So let's give a chance so that we can get some feedback on these really interesting presentations. And I'm just going to start and move that way. So Indonesia, please.
Thank you for moderator. I'm from Indonesia. Excellent presentation from all panelists. Regarding to Mr. Berbosa presentation, I want to share what we do in Indonesia for collecting about information about internet security. Okay, that we all know that the internet has become a high value thing. Because it's have high value, so the attacker or crime become interested to the internet. Okay, in Indonesia, we have organization called IDCT, something like search or like search. The function as a security incident response team on internet infrastructure. We do collect data which consists like a kind of event of security has break. For example, a kind of event of security has break is like SQL injection, something like that. Source and destination IP address of attack, source and destination port of attack, and the protocol type of use for attack. So I want to share if we put it on the future ICT indicator on internet security. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll just carry on, please, with the next question. Iran.
Thank you very much for all the panels for the interesting presentation. Actually, I wanted to share some experience from Iran because in 2013, we, as mentioned by Mr. Barbosa, we performed a household survey in Iran based on the latest manual of ITU. I wanted to mention about the barriers to internet access. I think it is one of the most important questions in this survey, I think, because also we can assess inclusion in that part, because our suggestion also is to separate access, barriers to access and barriers to use, because in some cases people have access, but they cannot use because of the quality, because of the content, because for example, also for disabled person, they have access to the internet at all, but they cannot use the content because it is not usable. And this is where we can assess the inclusion, because to see the people that have been excluded from access, from the use, they have in some cases they have the access, but they cannot use because of the quality, because of the content is useless for them, they cannot find suitable content or some suitable services for them. We did it, for example, in e-government services survey that we wanted, and we asked people why they are you are not using electronic services. There, it is available. And they were answered that the e-service is not available. I cannot find it on the internet. It is not usable for me. And this kind of, they have the access. So I think we should work on it to separate the access and use. And for example, and also I wanted to mention, because I found that in China, Hong Kong, China, they have the same problem. in the response to this question, also 64% of the households that do not have access to, or do not use the internet, they answered that we do not need the internet. And it is a very important thing. I found that also in your survey, you have very close, and in our analysis, we reached to this problem that we should work on absorptive capacity to increase the capacity of people to understand, learn, and apply the lesson learned about internet benefits and its capabilities. It's very important in the countries to work on that. And based on the result of this question, we can find that also, because I found that also in the Hong Kong, this is the problem, we should work on absorptive capacity to increase this capacity of the nation. And also the other response categories was cost at the second stage, but also the cost of services and cost of equipments. At this fourth stage, it was the skills or confidence or ICT skills. And I think also it shows that, again, ICT skills is a very main barrier to access or use the maybe using the internet, not accessing the internet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Egypt?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thanks for distinguished speaker. Actually, my comments, it's concerning the EGH and as well as concerning the presentation of GSMA and Esperanza. For the EGH, for the security, I really would like to stress again the importance of measuring this issue, especially that the CERT in every country, in our case, they are waiting our work and they are waiting our measurement for the security. And I think this is also the case of many other countries. I saw it, and even I saw it in the OECD, the Working Party of Information Society last year, which is there was a presentation from the people from the Security Working Party, and they looking for our work in this. So I would like to stress to have it again and to try to find measurement for this. Thanks for the mobile phone ownership by gender to be included, because this is one of the important, and especially I'm interested in this and in the gender indicator in general. For the barriers to internet use by individual, we need to see the complementary between this indicator and the indicator number 14, HH14 as well. This is my comments for this. And concerning the GSMA is planning for doing survey with the NSO, I would suggest as well to include, because the cases in other countries, it's the ministries or the regulator are involved with the NSOs for the surveys. Like our case in our country, we involve it in designing the methodology and the sampling with our NSO, and the questionnaire is designed by our side. So please, we need this coordination as well with the other countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that input. I know there's a lot that's been presented, but if we could just focus on your point that you want to highlight, otherwise we're not going to get to the end of the room. Bangladesh?
Okay, my question to Alvina from China. During your this household survey in China, did your enumerators use the computer-assisted personal interview system or just a traditional paper-based interview system? In case you have used computer-assisted interview system, what are the challenges or difficulties you have faced? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chad?
Merci. Je vais parler en français. En fait, je suis chef de section statistique à l'Office tchadien de régulation des télécommunications et en même temps le responsable de l'observatoire. Ma question s'adresse à l'UIT et à GSMA. En fait, le multi-SIM ou bien le multi-utilisateur constitue aujourd'hui un biais pour les indicateurs. La question est de savoir si on peut comparer deux pays sans prendre en compte ce phénomène. Par exemple, quand on prend le taux, le nombre d'utilisateurs pour 100 habitants, au Gabon, ça fait plus de 100%, et au Tchad, ça fait par exemple moins de 50%. Est-ce qu'on peut comparer ces deux pays sur la base de ces indicateurs? Et la même chose pour l'utilisation de l'Internet. Moi, je peux avoir de l'Internet chez moi, mes amis viennent se connecter, mais on me considère comme un seul utilisateur de l'Internet. Merci.
Sorry about that. The question was about SIMs. Sorry, multiple SIMs. And the question was directed to Josh from GSMA, so I think he can handle the response in English, but not right now. We'll just take it on. I'm sorry we didn't get translation for everyone else, but he'll capture the question in his response. China, please.
Thank you, Chair. I also have some concern about unique mobile ownership measure as in Geneva, and I want to clarify it more. When do this computation, as I understand, you have a premise ahead that multiple SIM cards held by one person is a reason to get a higher penetration rate. Then, the more SIM cards one person has, there is more likely we can see a higher penetration rate. When the less SIM cards one person has, there is more likely we can see a lower penetration rate. So when we use the overall penetration rate in the numerator and use the average SIM cards one person has in the denominator, the mixed results may have some bias. I think the solution to this problem is to find a steady relationship between SIM cards held by one person and the penetration rate by some econometric model using the survey data, and consider the model into the estimation process. In this process, I think some survey in city level or community level is needed. I also want to ask, what is your data source of doing this research? What is your estimation method of SIM cards held by one person indicator? Can you share it for us? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I mean, I think the question around, what demand-side surveys can do that some of this other data can't is that it can ask. We don't actually need even econometric modeling or regressions. You just say, how many do you have? And we found across 17 African countries that there was an average of 5, but very different. In some countries 7 and in some countries 3. But I mean, if you can do that demand-side survey, you can get your answer straight. But we'll come back, we'll get your questions directed to ITU, to Esperanza, and to Josh.
Okay, thank you. Short question to a gentleman from GSMA. When you collect your numbers or information through your survey, do you go directly to the service providers in each country? And if so, do you contact with all service providers or just the incumbent by overpassing the regulator? Because in the case of Saudi Arabia, the only source of the telecom numbers and information, it comes from the regulator, and service providers, they are not allowed to provide any numbers out of the country unless it comes from the regulator itself. Thank you.
Sorry, at the back, and then, yeah. Yes.
Azerbaijan Marketing Society. A question about the barriers for internet usage. Has there been an attempt to survey both randomly selected household member and the head of household or any other member of household who is the decision maker on internet usage, and then to jointly analyze the responses to compare what is the reality and what are the responses from randomly selected members of household? Thank you very much.
We'll get, maybe you can answer that question as well. Rebecca in front, and then we'll have to close.
Thank you very much. Very quickly. I have three questions. First one is about the EGH work. So, Alexandra, you have recalled the important work in revising the questions and the indicators. But my first question is, have you discussed in the EGH the possibility of having a repository of model questionnaires, which is updated, so that countries that want to include one new module can quickly have a model question? Second one is a question for Jos. You have mentioned that you would like to work with national statistical institutes, but my concern is that, for instance, in Europe, the work program of NSI is very much regulated by the community statistical program. So it's not so easy to introduce a new survey. On the other side, for developing countries, they have very scarce resources and very high demand, very high pressure from international organizations to produce data on many other topics. So how are you planning to coordinate with national statistical institutes to have these new surveys, including the national statistical programs? And my last question is for my country fellow, for Carmelo. You have mentioned the different studies carried out, but one of the major issues in Spain right now is the high unemployment of the young population. Have you carried out any kind of study about the relationship between the use of ICT and the ICT skills and the impact on employment probabilities? Thank you.
Sorry, there was a question from Sweden earlier on, but otherwise it is closed off because we are completely out of time. Does Sweden still want to comment? Yes,
thank
no?
You, thank you. Yes, I can just thank you, Madam Chair, and all of you for all the interesting presentation. I would just like to inform you quickly that we now in Eurostat, in the task force, are working with some specific field of the internet security, and it's the privacy and protection of personal identity. And it's very much a work in progress at the moment, but there will be a finished module in March next year. And we are now working with the purposes of providing personal information, what the purposes are for the users, and have they done anything to control their personal information, and so what have they done, and are they concerned about how their personal information are handled on the internet. So that was just for information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to have to do a real whip around. If you can respond as quickly as possible, please, to your points. Maybe just to the main ones that have been addressed to you. And Jos, if you just make sure that you pick up the multiple SIMs, because that wasn't translated for everyone. Thank you.
Well, I'll try not to forget every question. About the question from Indonesia, I'll be pleased to share our methodology and our conclusions. So we will be in contact, and I'll send you every information. Okay. What else? About oh, yeah. Yes, we have a survey made, or well, an analyzed that is related to data extracted from the works developed by our National Institute of Statistics, and it's called a socio-demographic profile of the internet user, and there we draw the profile of the high-level internet users and the low-level internet users, and the factors involved in those situations. Sorry. And what else?
Thank you. I'm going to ask you to stop there, just so we can get one response from everybody, and then if we've got time, which I don't think we have. Alvina, could you answer the question I think you had from Bangladesh?
Thanks for your interest on my part, because the question touched on our survey details. I suggest maybe you can find me for a chat during the coffee break. Then I can tell you our survey in details. Thank you.
Well, I'll address the Indonesia question and Egypt question about internet security, and I would like to let you know that this issue is open for discussion in the forum in terms of sharing experience. And ITU is not going to collect this particular data. And thank you, Daniel from Sweden, to mention about Eurostat that is conducting survey model and questions about internet security. And as I made a point in my presentation, we suggest that countries follow some existing model, like Eurostat model. So, but this is, we recognize, acknowledge that this is a very important issue. Regarding the Iran comments on barriers to access and barriers to use, also this item is open in the EG8 forum for sharing experience, and also ITU is not going to collect this particular indicator, but we do acknowledge that it is very important. So I think that, and lastly, Jose Luis mentioned about mood questionnaire. We are not tackling this issue, but it is indeed a very good suggestion, maybe to have some models for rotation, and I welcome your inputs to the forum, and we can discuss this later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all your questions. I think I will just tackle them all together to say that the indicators that you mentioned on the barriers and security are all in the EGH forum, and that you are very welcome to participate in the discussion, in sharing your experiences and in posing your questions. There's also this idea of repository of household questionnaires, and I would like to share with you that we are already also contacting countries to share with us their household questionnaire if they are willing to do so. But I think this is also an important subject that could be also put into the forum so that countries can learn from the others in terms of the questionnaires. And lastly, on the comment from Saudi Arabia and in Egypt, in terms of having the official data sources that we currently have as still the main source of the data that we collect, I assure you that we will continue to collect the data from the regulators on the supply side data, and on the demand side data, we will get them from the national statistics offices. And that in the conduct of surveys, I mean, I'm speaking on behalf also of GSMA, we will be working with the NSO, and of course we will try to work with other agencies that are involved in the discussions regarding the surveys in the country. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your question. The question was about data comparability, essentially. So if we are looking at a country like Ghana or Gabon with a very high penetration rate, based on subscriptions, how can we say that how can we compare this country with a country like Chad, where the penetration rate is very, very different? So if in Ghana the penetration is through the roof, above 100%, and in Chad the penetration is around 50%, it's the phenomenon of multiple SIM, therefore making penetration based on subscriptions kind of irrelevant. I think that was your question, and that's typically the problem we are trying to tackle with this new methodology of coming with a subscriber number. And when you remove this multi-SIM phenomenon out of the subscription penetration rate, then you get a number that you can compare with any country. So when you look at the subscriber penetration for Ghana, Gabon, or Chad, then you have a number that you can compare. And it's giving you a much better picture of what the real penetration is. So this is absolutely the idea behind and the objective behind getting to a subscriber number rather than a subscription number. Regarding the question from China, I'd be happy to take you through the methodology and share the data as well with you if you want to see some of the details. and if you can help as well to improve it and share any insights you might have, that would be very helpful as well. And Saudi Arabia, I think just going back to the comment Esperanza made, I think the survey numbers that we get do not come from the operator, but comes from the man on the street, essentially. So none of the operators are involved in the subscriber part of the research. So they're only involved in the collecting the numbers for subscriptions. And those numbers either come from operators or they come from the regulator reports in the case where operators might not report anything. And just going back to Rose's question, this is something we, the collaboration and the development of the survey and how to do it is something that we haven't looked in details yet, but we'd be happy to take any inputs on how to best to tackle all those issues. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Please do follow up with those people that you've not been able to get your full answers from. They're all here and they're available. I think we have to close up the session, which has highlighted and endorsed, I think, the work, excellent work of the expert group on household indicators, which has defined new indicators that better reflect the access and use of ICTs, in particular mobile phones. I think the initiative to try and supplement and complement the lacking household survey data with the collaboration between GSMA and ITU, with the big data, not the big data, the big sets of data that they managed to sit on from their operators is a very welcome development, and hopefully will be complemented by the more household surveys being undertaken by more countries. I think particularly the barriers to ICT use has been very widely embraced by participants. I think the realization that we have to move beyond access and that really understanding the factors that constrain use has been highlighted. The future activities or the future areas for discussion have been identified. Please engage in the online forum and contribute to these. I think the other important thing that came up was the issues of internet security, and there's obviously a lot of interest in Alexandra has spoken about the desire and intention to take that work forward. So you're all encouraged to review the existing surveys that include the indicators and definitions on all of these issues, internet security and the other issues. I'll hand over to the chairperson, please, rather belatedly.
Thank you. Thank you to Ms. Alison Guillaud for moderation of this session. It was a very interesting session. Also, thanks to Alexander Barbosa, Esperanza Macpantai, Alvina Kwan, Carmelo Javier Mujos Ruiz. Now we have a lunch. We'll continue our session at 2:30. At 2 o'clock we have the site event, which will present Oman experience in conducting the ICT Households and Individual Survey 2013. It will include also a presentation of a survey methodology and results. At 2 o'clock, who will be interested in this side event? It's not obligatory. It's voluntary. You can join this event. But for the next session, which will be about data quality, big data, and open data, we will start at 2:30. Thank you very much, and enjoy your lunch.